Hey, Jeremiah, Steps Pressure Washing and more, out here in beautiful Andrew, North Carolina, and we're actually going to be doing a little bit of a instructional video today, a little bit of kind of out of turn from our normal, and what we're going to do is how to soft wash like a pro. And the way that I soft wash, I actually use a downstream injector, and then I use a high pressure nozzle and a low pressure nozzle to turn that valve on and off. So let me go ahead, I'm going to turn the camera around, I'm going to show you a little bit of the equipment that we use to get that the soap effect. So hang on one second. Alright, so this right here, this is where all of the magic happens. This is our downstream injector, is this part right here. I have it attached to two quick connects so that it is able to easily be interchanged. This is an older one that I usually have in the truck, and when my downstream injector fails, I will swap out to this one, and then I will repair the one that I'm using right now using the ball and the spring that just wears out in here, and then that will become my new backup. But this right here is a 2.1 injector. They come in 1.8 and I believe a 2.4. I've never used either 1.8 or the 2.4. I've only used the 2.1, and that's just because I know what my mix is going to be every time with this, and I usually don't vary on the strength. So basically what this is, when it has low pressure, it allows chemical to go through this barb here and mixes in with your water that you're getting out of the pump, and so this is able to keep all of the sodium hypochlorite out of your pump. You have several different nozzle options that you can use to create that high pressure, low pressure effect in your line. This right here, this is my go-to now. This has kind of been over the years finding out what I like, what I don't like, and this right here keeps me pretty happy most days. So this is our M5 downstream, and it has a large orifice inside that allows low pressure in our pressure line, which allows this to draw soap through the barb. Then when I am ready to switch off of that soaping, I will switch over to this XJET M5 Twist, and it has, you see the one here with the barb. I can run chemical through this, and I do when I do my post-treatment for driveways, but 90% of the time I'm only using this as a rinsing tool because it allows me to adjust the fan to a straight jet, and that also allows me to change what the pressure is going onto the house. So if I'm on a jet, I'm actually hitting that house with a pretty decent pressure, and the fan will aerate it a little bit to help control so I'm not hitting it with too high a pressure on the house. So the reason why we use this high pressure nozzle is for the smaller orifice, and that's it. So the smaller orifice creates back pressure in the line, and that pushes this closed, and it won't allow the barb to draw soap anymore, and allows me to rinse. Alright, and over here we have our 4-nozzle J-rod. What this basically is it just holds 4 different types of nozzles. 2 of these are for soaping. They're a 40-degree nozzle, and one is for a fan, one is for a needle or a solid stream, and then the other 2 are the high pressure, which you can see the larger orifice allows soap to draw. The smaller orifice cuts the soap off because it creates more back pressure in the line. This one I liked okay, but I really did not like the 2 high pressure nozzles on this. It just really didn't work for what I wanted it to as efficiently as I wanted it to, whereas the XJET, I'm able to just do a quick twist and go from up high to down low, fan to needle. So this actually ended up being my rinsing tool pretty much from the beginning, and I switched over to this 2-nozzle J-rod, which is just the soap tips. And I would use this, I would do the fan to start off, get everything on the bottom, switch over to what I would always call the second floor, but it's a 0040, and I would hit the top with this, and then once it was finished dwelling, I would switch over to my XJET, run the soap out of the line, and once the soap stopped, I would go ahead and rinse. And that worked really well for a couple years, and I just had this riding around in my pocket. There was a lot of switching out and a lot of bleach on my hands, so we ended up, one of our subscribers actually told us, hey, get that M5DS, just stop messing around. And so we did, and I absolutely love it, and I highly, highly recommend this combo right here. Just makes things a lot more efficient. But if you're getting started out, this 4-nozzle J-rod is a good option, but I really like the XJET for the rinsing and the M5 downstream for soaping. It makes life so much easier being able to just give it a quick twist, open that fan up or close it down, and it really makes it a lot easier. And of course, you're going to need a lance or a gun of some sort to attach all this to. I did have a stock lance on the pressure washer. It worked okay. It did not work with the 4-nozzle J-rod. It just didn't fit, but I found out really quickly that this little short shooter here is the way to go. Anyway, let's go over to the trailer. I'm going to show you what we got going on over there and what we use. We have a 4 gallon per minute, 4,000 PSI, which we really don't care too much about the PSI until we're doing some concrete cleaning or other flat work. But basically this is just as it came out of the box, then strapped to my trailer. And then I have hoses that run an inlet line from my hose reel over to here, and then I now just detach directly off the hose reel there and hook right into my downstream injector. Downstream injector, this one right here is actually starting to wear out, so I might need to get some new quick connects for that, some stainless steel, which I do have in the truck. Then I have this piece of PVC pipe that, again, thank you to one of our subscribers. It is just a 1/2 inch piece of PVC pipe that we cut down and we put on this line, then capped it off with the filter. So the filter keeps it from coming off, but this also weighs us down so we are able to go into the bottom of the bleach tank and not fall out all the time like we used to do. Here we have our mix tank. We're also going to do a quick bucket test before we get started because you need to know what your ratio is. There's a lot of people out there that don't know their ratio, and I highly, highly recommend knowing what your ratio is before you start spraying bleach. So we're going to do a quick bucket test before we get started today so that you guys can find what you need to be watering down. I've had some people say, well, hey, I just use straight SH and it's not too strong. Well, that's true, but you might be using straight SH and you're wasting money. You might be hitting it with a 2.5% and you're just getting lucky and you're not killing plants. Or you might be hitting it with a 0.75% and you need to adjust something on your setup to where you're drawing a little bit of a hotter percentage. When doing a downstream injection, you want to make sure that both of your hose reels are completely unwound. If you do not unwind your inlet completely, you're going to be getting a restricted flow because it will be creating pressure on the line. So I always want to make sure that's completely unwound. As well, our pressure hose I want to have completely unwound because if you have it wrapped too tightly and it has to make small little circles, it could create back pressure on its own, and that will make your downstream injector not function properly. I have here just about all the air out of the line, so I'm going to go ahead and hook up my gun, and we're going to get this bucket test started. So I have here a gallon pitcher that I use sometimes to make mixes with, as well as a small 1 cup measuring cup. So what I have in here, I have 8 ounces of water, and then I have really just a random amount over here. The amount that's in here really doesn't matter that much at this point, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go ahead and crank up the pressure washer. I'm going to put the dipstick into here, and then I'm going to prime the downstream injector. Basically, I'm just going to run with my soaper tip until I get all the air out of the line and all of the air out of the detergent line as well. That's very important when you're doing this, is you don't want to take your first 8 ounces of liquid and fill your detergent line. So let's go ahead and prime that up. And wherever we land when I stop pulling air, I'm going to go ahead and make a mark on this gallon pitcher, and then I'm going to dump the 8 ounces into here, and then I'm just going to run with what's coming out of the pump and what's coming out of the downstream injector until I make my way back down to the line that I just made. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. I'm going to go ahead and put some music on for you guys because I'm sitting right next to the pressure washer and it's going to be extremely loud. So while I'm doing that, I'll just show you what I'm doing and have a little bit of music playing in the background. But once I'm done with once I'm done filling the bucket, I can then measure out what went into the bucket and then just minus out my 8 ounces. So let's fill this bucket up real quick. Alright, so I have brought that level down, just really shot out the 8 ounces. Got a little bit here in the bucket, so we're going to measure this out, see what we're pulling, and we will know what our draw rate is at this point. Alright, so bucket test done. We filled up about 64 ounces of fluid into our blue Lowe's bucket, and then we had, out of that was 8 ounces of the original measuring cup. So we added to it to find out our draw ratio, so we have to take that 8 ounces out. So that leaves us with 56 ounces of water to 8 ounces of SH when we're actually running this. So what we have to do to do our batch mix, we have to put 1 part water, 1 part SH to get us about that 1% ratio that we're looking for when it runs through our 1:7 downstream injector. Since we already have our batch ready to roll, I'm going to go ahead and pack all this back up, and we're going to go over to one of our neighbor's house. They were actually one of our very first houses that we did. I think they were like house number 3. So we're going to go wash their house again because it's been a few years. So we're here on our first project. This is actually going to be our only project today. We're going to just be doing this how-to video and then doing some Christmas lights, but we don't do Christmas lights professionally, just for fun. And you can see here, kind of that results of 3 years of not being washed. Got a little bit of grime. Definitely a good bit of cobwebs up here. Definitely have a package. We're going to move off the porch. We're going to tape up this lock right here. And before I really get started, I like to go ahead and just do a walkthrough, seeing if I can find anything really noteworthy. And you can see here, well, you might not even be able to see here, this is really caked on. Again, it has been 3 years since it's been washed, so you can see all the snail marks on it. So this is definitely overdue. Kind of my fault. I see it every day and I just haven't gotten over here to do it. We found ourselves with a little bit of lull today, so we're going to go ahead and take care of it for the neighbor. So we're going to go around just looking for little things like, you know, are we going to need to tape up the locks? Are we going to need to close these outlets? And if we do, we want to go ahead and do that before the water's flowing. And we're also checking for any damage. You know, so if we've got anything that we are just like, hey, we want to note that, we go ahead and note it now before we get started. But nothing too significant on this one. Pretty well maintained. do a quick oxidation check. We're not on the south side yet, but yeah, we got a little bit of oxidation here coming off. That's a little sunny area there. Right, and then this side here we've got a good bit of tree cover. This is the southern side. Let's check out this here. Let's use a clean hand. Do an oxidation check on that, and got a little bit of oxidation there as well. Nothing too terrible, because again, she doesn't get a whole lot of direct sunlight on this side. But, oh yeah, I don't know if you can see that attic vent. We're going to get that nice and clean. Make sure, I'm going to tape up these door locks here to make sure that we're not filling them in with SH. Here's an area that gets a good bit of sun. Yep, definitely some oxidation there. Alright, so now that we've gone ahead and done our pre-walkthrough, I'm going to tape up all the door locks. And I'm going to get the water turned on. I've already pulled the hoses, so they are laid out in the way that I want them. So I can start on this back corner here, work all the way around the back of the house, come up here, work this garage, and work my way over to that corner, and then be done. We'll be able to wrap right up, and the hoses will be facing a direction that will be easy for me to roll up. Also, I make sure that I lay my inlet hose first, and then I use my pressure hose and I drag that around, because I don't want the inlet hose to get tangled up with the high pressure hose while I'm working. So I go ahead and just lay that down first, and then no matter how much I move the pressure hose around, it's not going to get tangled up. Also, I did bring my bucket here. We are going to rinse the downstream injector when we are done, and basically all we're going to do for that is we're going to fill this up with some water, take the dipstick out of our bleach tank, put it into the little pitcher. We're going to fill the line with water so that we're able to rinse that so it doesn't get corroded, and that will make your downstream injectors last a little bit longer. Alright, so now we've taped up the locks, we've moved a couple potted plants. We're going to go ahead and start soaping, and we're going to be working our way from the bottom up to the top to ensure that we are saturating everything evenly and nothing is drying out while we're going. Alright, hang on. Let's get this thing to wash. Alright, so now we've given this about 10 minutes to dwell. We're going to come back on through. We're going to rinse it really good. Make sure we get all of the sodium hypochlorite off. Alrighty, so that's all washed, it's all rinsed. I'm going to go ahead and rinse the back side of the house that I soaked while we were letting this dwell. And I'll carry you guys around to the southern side and we'll do a little bit more of an up close what I'm doing. Alright, now I've got you here a little bit closer with me. So we are just now waiting for the soap to come on out. We have to run all of the straight water that we had in there from rinsing. Now that we've got our M5 downstreamer hooked up, creating a low back pressure, we're going to start pulling some of that SH mixture. Currently I'm running with no surfactant. I think different types of surfactants are a preference, and right now my preference is no soap. We're just doing sodium hypochlorite and water. Again, another thing I did want to mention, is we generally don't use high pressure on any home siding. And that is about industry standard now. This soft wash with the sodium hypochlorite is the industry standard. It is safer for the house, safer for us, not safer for the plants around the area. So make sure that you are rinsing the plants as you go, especially if you are using a hotter mix. So it's rinse, wash, rinse. That is for the plants. It is just wash and rinse for the house. And as you can see here, we're getting a good distance on our fan pattern with this M5 downstream nozzle, I guess I should say, is our soaper tip. And I'm able to get all the way up on this low peak. It's not super high up there, so I don't need to switch to the needle. I'm just hitting it with the fan and just saturating everything really good. And I don't know if I mentioned before, but we always rinse top down. Just like we soap bottom up, we want to make sure that it's saturated when we are rinsing or when we are washing. We also want to make sure that we are getting all of the sodium hypochlorite off, along with any spider webs or gunk and grime that might be on there. We rinse top down. And generally, I will wash top down as well. So if I've got an area higher up, like up on a deck, I will wash that deck area before I wash under the deck. And then I will rinse the deck area before I rinse under the deck, just in case I get splattered down below. Just had to fight off a very angry wasp. I believe he stung me. Either that or I just hit my elbow a little too hard flicking him off. But that is something you have to watch out for from time to time, just because there will be wasp nests that form on the outside of these houses, and once you hit them with sodium hypochlorite, it starts to burn and they start going into defense mode. So be mindful of that as well. Generally don't get stung by wasps. That's a rule of mine, if I can help it. I have been stung before, and I try to avoid it when I can, and I generally try and hit those areas where I know that there's a wasp nest as far away as I can do it, just to maybe at least confuse them a little bit of where that water is coming from. Making sure we're getting up here in these little nooks and crannies, getting all of the spider webs. Alright, now I'm going to switch from this needle down to a fan. That way I can cover a wider area and I can get a little bit closer to the house. Alrighty, so we are all done washing. I'm going to actually come on over here. I'm going to rinse my downstream injector. Alright, so that's going to be it today. We've already gone through what equipment to use, how to do a bucket test, what ratio to mix your batch mix to, how to wash, how to rinse, and then how to flush your downstream injector. Again, this is not a kind of an everything all-included tutorial. This is just going to be your standard, basic, easy house wash. And I hope you guys have liked the content. Make sure you give us a thumbs up and subscribe. If there's anything you guys want to see a video on, just let me know. I mean, I'm out here doing it all day, so I'd be happy to just throw the camera on and share a little bit of the knowledge. So until next time, you guys be safe out there.